Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted to answer the question, what are we made of? I knew I wanted to be a scientist, but what kind? Biology gets us to cells, chemistry to atoms and molecules. Physics tells us what those atoms and molecules are made of, even what the protons and neutrons are made of. And that brings us to the standard model of particles and interactions. This model tells us that everything is made of leptons and quarks. These particles interact via the strong and weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, and gravity. Gravity is not really a part of the standard model because there's no quantum theory of gravity, but there is a theory for gravity, general relativity. We know that the standard model and general relativity work very well for a lot of phenomena. But when we look out at distant galaxies, the rotation rates don't match what we would expect if the mass was all due to the visible matter. There's other evidence, too, that leads us to postulate the existence of dark matter and dark energy, because we can't see it. My work seeks to test the standard model, searching for a potential dark matter candidate. This is the goal of the MOLLER experiment, a $45 million US experiment to measure the weak mixing angle, a quantity that has a definite prediction in the standard model, so precisely that a deviation would indicate the existence of a new physics particle with a mass up to hundreds of times more massive than the most massive particles yet discovered. I am a member of the executive board of MOLLER, the head of the spectrometer group, and co-PI on the multi-million-dollar CFI grant we have to build the MOLLER detectors right here on the University of Manitoba's campus. I'm dedicated to improving equity, diversity, and inclusion in physics, and particularly for women and gender-diverse individuals, as well as to improve Indigenous contributions and success in science, particularly physics. For 10 years, I was the chair of the Canadian Institute of Nuclear Physics Scientific Working Group for Nuclear Education and Training and Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. I'm currently the vice chair of the Canadian Association of Physicists Division of Gender Equity in Physics. For over 10 years, I have hosted students as part of the Verna J. Kirkness program, which brings Indigenous high school students to campus to work in research labs for a week at the beginning of summer. This helps them to familiarize themselves with the campus environment. The goal in my lab is to demystify the idea of radiation, in addition to recruiting into physics. During the week, the students measure the charge and mass of an electron, and the final project is to build a cosmic ray cloud chamber where they can actually see cosmic ray tracks. I talk about the difference between cosmic rays, which come from outside the solar system, and the aurora, which is caused by material from our sun. We usually take that opportunity to discuss Indigenous perspectives on the aurora.
How did you feel when you first heard the news of being elected to the Royal Society of Canada?
Shocked. I remember thinking it was a long shot when I was filling out the application materials, so finally getting the word that I was going to be inducted into the College of New Scholars, Artists, and Scientists was a big surprise. It would have been an honor just to be considered. After the shock wore off, I realized now this places an extra burden on me to contribute to the goals of the society, as well as the benefit of some weight to my future work, particularly in equity, diversity, and inclusion. One thing I hope to achieve is to bring physics education to remote communities, particularly Indigenous communities, in order to give students a chance to study physics at university. Many remote divisions don't even offer high school physics. Ideally, I would like to set up remote study for those students who want to take physics classes, but this involves a lot of challenges with provincial curriculum and university requirements. So to begin, I would like to start an Adopt a Physicist program where elementary school students can meet on Zoom with a physicist from Manitoba and send them questions. This will give the volunteer physicists a chance to learn from the students as well. For my research, I hope to continue to work at the cutting edge of subatomic physics. After MOLLER, there's another experiment to measure the weak mixing angle in electron-proton scattering called P2. I hope one of these experiments will give a hint of a new particle. Beyond that, there's a new accelerator being built in the US called the Electron-Ion Collider, which will give us further opportunity to test the standard model, as well as to continue to improve our understanding of how quarks and gluons work to form the properties of the protons and neutrons. This will help me get closer to an answer to that question, what are we made of?